Hello, I'm Steve Florio, Executive Director of the Rhode Island Commission on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. The topic for this month's video log is questions on the ballot here in the state of Rhode Island. As you know, the general election will be taking place on November 4th of 2014, that's next month, and many of you will be heading to the polls to vote. Once you arrive, you'll receive a paper or a ballot with questions. On that ballot will be the names of candidates that you can vote for. There are candidates on the national level, such as U.S. Senators and U.S. House of Representatives. There are also candidates on the state level, for example, the governor, the lieutenant governor, the Secretary of State, as well as others. And on the local level, you'll be able to vote for the state representatives in your hometown. After that, you'll see a list of 7 questions on the ballot. And I'll explain a little bit more in detail about each. Now, the first question on the ballot pertains to the Newport Grand Casino. Many of you may be familiar with the Newport Grand. It's located in Newport, Rhode Island, and it's a facility for gaming. The question on the ballot asks, should the facility expand its gaming capabilities to include table games such as craps, roulette, and blackjack, as well as other table games? So that will be the first question on the ballot for you to vote on. Now, question number 2 on the ballot also pertains to the Newport Grand. The question asks voters whether or not to amend the Rhode Island Constitution. If investors or the owners of Newport Grand were to decide to move to a different location, they must seek approval by voters in a referendum. If that were to pass, then the amendment would be made to the Rhode Island Constitution. And in the event the Newport Grand were to move in the future, it would require a referendum and voter approval before doing so. The third question on the ballot pertains to the Constitutional Convention. This is a question that appears on the ballot every 10 years. And it's asked to voters to see whether or not they feel as though the state's governing document needs to be revised. Voters can either approve or not approve. If it's passed, a referendum will be established so that delegates from each municipality can represent individuals and to talk about how the Constitution can be amended. If you vote no, then you'll be asked this question again in another 10 years. The next several questions all pertain to bonds. I'd like to explain a little bit more about bonds and what they are. Bonds are typically for capital improvement projects, such as roads, highways, buildings. A bond could be for a new building being constructed or for the renovation of an existing building. Now, a bond is when you borrow money, very much like a loan, and it's required that that loan be paid back over, say, 20 to 30 years, for example. For Rhode Island, a bond is when the state borrows money and they're required to pay it back with interest. And as you'll see, the next few questions pertain to bonds. Now, question number 4 on the ballot pertains to the University of Rhode Island and their engineering program. This bond is worth $125 million. And this bond is called the Higher Education Facilities Bond. This bond would be used to construct a new building for the College of Engineering at the University of Rhode Island's South Kingstown campus. You can indicate your preferences by voting yes or no on the ballot. Now, question number 5 on the ballot pertains to arts and culture. This bond is worth $35 million. And this bond is called the Creative and Cultural Economy Bond. Out of that $35 million, $5 million would go to the Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission. This money would be used to preserve buildings and sites in the state of Rhode Island of historical significance. Out of the remaining $30 million, $23 million would go to 9 various public and not-for-profit organizations for the purpose of renovating buildings, theaters, as well as expanding existing facilities. $6.9 million would be for the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts to ensure that other performing arts centers and cultural centers are renovated. One big advantage for those individuals who are deaf and hard of hearing is that some of this money could be used to improve accessibility at these various cultural and arts organizations, whether it's through captioning or other services. So that's one advantage. So you can indicate your preferences by marking yes or no on the ballot. Now, question number 6 on the ballot pertains to mass transit, which means public transportation around the state of Rhode Island. This would include buses, trains, and other modes of transportation. This bond is worth $35 million, and this bond is called Mass Transit Hub Infrastructure Bond. This money would be used to make renovations to transportation hubs throughout Rhode Island and to increase accessibility to healthcare centers by coordinating intermodal sites. You can indicate your preferences, whether you're in support or not in support of this on the ballot. Now, question number 7 on the ballot pertains to the environment and parks. This bond is worth $53 million. And this bond is called the Clean Water, Open Space, and Healthier Communities Bond. The $53 million would go to various organizations, such as the Roger Williams Park and Zoo, Also, these monies would be used to improve water systems, to ensure clean water for our communities. Also, these monies would go for flood prevention, as well as the purchase of polluted lands so that they can be converted to farmland. You can indicate your preferences on the ballot by voting yes or no. Now you've had the opportunity to become familiar with the 7 questions that will be on the ballot. In addition to that, you're now familiar with all the candidates who are running for elected office on the national, state, and local levels. You have a lot to think about before your day at the polls. We wish you good luck on November 4th, and we'll see you again next month. So long.